Well, we were both born and raised in Orville, Ohio,
Yeah.
and that is the home of Smucker's Jelly. And well, both of us had jobs in Orville we really liked, and Chris had worked for a Christian nursery school. They had just started one in our church, which was really neat, and I'd worked for the boys club that was in town, and but both of us just felt, it was really neat, and our families were there, and our friends, and but we both just thought it'd be,
There was something else.
yeah, just something else. And even though we did Christian things at our jobs, it was just, we thought it would just be like the Lord leading us to do something, like being Christian work all the time, as not just from 9 to 5, but mornings, noons, evenings. And I know you're supposed to live that way as a Christian life, but actually to have responsibilities with our jobs of serving the Lord. So I worked with a friend that went to the Mennonite church, and he had been in this volunteer program through their church, and I thought, boy, that was really neat. How I think he went to Mississippi and helped with a youth program in a church for a couple of years, and so we went to his pastor in our hometown to ask him about how you go about serving that way and through the church. And our hometown too was small, and if you worked for the church, the only jobs really were available was the pastor or the secretary. Really, everybody else was volunteer, the youth workers and things like that. And so if you wanted to, really do that as a profession, there wasn't really anything there unless you were the pastor or the secretary. But anyways, we went with their pastor and talked to him, and he said, guys, don't you know about, there's a little place called Red Bird Mission in Kentucky that is through the Methodist Church that has a camping program and that we're involved with, and there's a school program we're involved with, and youth work and things like that. So I think we went in the spring and just drove down to Redbird to see what it was like, and this as we pulled in the parking lot, we knew that was where the Lord was leading us. But we came back to our hometown, and it was hard to leave our family and friends, and my dad had been sick for a long time, and we just felt the Lord leading us to do that. And really a few years prior to that, we had talked about going to some type of work like that. Well, people in the town, when you heard you're going to mission work, it's like, well, what part of Africa are you going to, or what part of India? And we're like, gosh, we're just thinking about going to Kentucky. It's like, is there mission work in Kentucky? But looking back on that, the time we waited.
Well, Beth was born during that time, and we had no idea the importance of having children when you work with kids. It really has a whole different meaning, and so it was really neat. We're so thankful that God, had us wait that time. And because when we moved down here, it was interesting, because when we would go to the houses and meet people and stuff, they'd take Beth and leave us out the front porch. They'd say, come on in. So we knew how important the kids were, and it was just really, really neat. And
our boss, Ruth Whitson, was our supervisor then.
Yeah,
she mentioned that she didn't tell us, but 30 years later, they really hired Beth, just brought me and Chris along with them, as part of the package. But you look back on things that you're involved with.
That's what I was thinking.
How the Lord had His hand
in. How the Lord prepares you, and you don't even think about that when you're going through it. We both worked. I worked at Head Start and the nursery school at the church, and Tom worked with the boys club, and you never think about that as you're doing it, that God's preparing you for something else. You just don't think of it until later on. You look back and you're like, oh man, He was preparing us all that time. So it was really neat.
It's neat. The superintendent, then Joe Davis, just said it was such a joy, and the children that were part of the ministry here were such a joy to work with, and Ruth had been one of the first outreach workers that came up on Sunday afternoons and had Sunday school with the children, and what a joy it was to be a part of that ministry. So it's neat they ended up calling it the Joy Center rather than the Outreach Center, which really is, and still to this day, it's really neat that the ministry, that the main mission statement is joy is putting J for Jesus first, O for others next, Y yourself last. So after 30 years, that that hasn't changed, and just thank the Lord for what's happened here, and give Him all the credit.
Yeah, absolutely.